We're live.
Yay.
Yes, we should be around.
Let's see.
I see us live.
Yes, we are live. Okay. Good. Mute. Okay. So, welcome to August Stitch and Bitch. And you are currently on my channel, which is the Bookfitch. And today we are missing Bree because she was not feeling very well. So if everyone could just please send some hugs and love Bree's ways, that would be awesome. But I think we are just gonna be fine with the four of us this month, and we're still gonna have a fun couple of hours stitching and bitching away. So starting with Rachel, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yep, my name is Rachel. My YouTube channel is Kalanati. I'm Kalanati everywhere, and I'm slowly catching up on talking about all the books I've read in the past couple of months.
Yay.
That's always great when you are kind of like pushing past the deadlock. Okay, Claire, next.
Hi, I'm Claire. My booktube channel is Claire Russo, which is spelled underneath my face because it's hard to spell. And I am reading books again, which is very exciting. I've been in a reading slump for like a super long time, but I do a TBR game on my channel where I roll dice to decide what I'm going to read. It's all like very D&D themed. And this month, it has finally, that plus the BookTube SFF Award live show being so soon has actually like finally managed to make me read. So exciting for me. I'm going to move my camera because I can't look at you guys in it at the same time. Very professional. I'm very sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I think it's every live stream has at least one or two moments where someone moves the camera. It's like just good practice. Okay, Di next.
Hi, I'm Diana, also known as Bookish Di. Haven't really done anything on YouTube lately because things are weird like that. What did I do with this meeting? Sorry. I did something wrong with this. Anyway, I haven't been doing a whole lot of reading lately. I've been in a weird slump, but I am trying really hard to finish a nonfiction book I've been working on for a while.
Do you want to start then by telling us what you are reading?
Sure. So I did actually, before my weird reading slump happened, I did a really quick reread through of Tamara Pierce's Circle of Magic books. So as much as I love her Tortal books, I think I like the Circle of Magic books a little bit better just because it has like those good found family tropes that I love. And I also like the idea of like crafting as magic.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like what type of crafting?
So like I'm about a third of the way through a couple of books. So the first one is City of Brass. I started that on audiobook, but realized I needed to switch to physical just because it was so long and my attention kept wandering. And then I'm also about a third of the way through. Let me double check Goodreads because it is a very weird title and I can never remember it. But I want to say it's A Song of Blood and Bone. So it's like, it's secondary world fantasy, and it's like kind of a little set, like it feels like 18th century because they have like guns and stuff. But I'm enjoying it so far. I really like the characters. And then I'm also about a third of the way through The Smartest Guys in the Room, which is the nonfiction book I've been reading for about a month. And it's just been slow going because it's very dense. It's about the Enron scandal in the US about 20 years ago now.
Oh, I got so
yes.
excited because I thought it was about Hamilton.
No, I don't know. So Enron was like a big deal where I grew up in California because it like really.
Is it the oil company?
I'm aware of it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know. Like,
I just
yeah, I didn't know.
But Enron is the oil company, right?
They mostly did natural gas.
Okay.
So it started off as a natural gas company and then moved into like broadband and electricity, and them getting into electricity was where they started really screwing over California, where I grew up.
I just feel like I've heard of Enron like owning this one gas station chain.
No, I mean it was inside a trading scandal, yes?
No, it was like
or pension scam. I mean, there's so much bad capitalism.
No, like the thing is with Enron, it was an everything scandal. Like reading the book, and like the book is very well written. It is just very, very dense, so it's very slow going. But basically, like once Kenneth Lay, I think the problems were there before, but like once this guy Kenneth Lay took over, there was just like the idea of making money at all costs, like overextending yourself, being super shady in every single aspect of your business. So yeah, I don't know if it was insider trading, but there was just like so much bad shit happening in Enron.
So basically everything you think an evil corporate entity would do.
Yeah.
And I think there was something about spending like the pension money or something like that. Or people had their pension in Enron like shares or something, and then it.
Yeah. Anyway. So a couple of state pension funds had invested in Enron, including California.
Yes, there we go.
But yeah, no, and like I said, Enron was very much like anything, like think of any like weird shady shit a business could do, Enron probably did it.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that like you see it in a sci-fi novel and you're like, no one's that evil, and it's like, yeah, they are.
I think with Enron though, if I'm remembering correctly, is that they basically, the reason why they did all of that was that there had previously been little to no oversight. And Enron basically, from what I remember, was the catalyst for a lot of the laws that are now in place in order to have oversight over big corporations. And it's still not enough because now they've just found other loopholes and ways to mitigate the restrictions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think Enron was just like, because it was seen as this Wall Street darling and it was seen as like, this is what gas can do. And then it turned out that they didn't even like build their house on quicksand. They built their house on nothing. And it was just them trying to do as much balancing as possible to make as much money before the Enron was a really big company. It, like I said, it's very, very interesting. It's very, very dense, which is why it's been taking me so long to work my way through it. Like I can only read it in small chunks.
Yeah.
What are you reading, Claire? Is there an echo?
Yes, I was going to say that I'm hearing an echo. Anyway, I'm reading The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, and I am bored. So I think it's So I'm reading the Starless Sea for the BookTube SFF Awards. It's my last BookTube SFF Award book for this year, so I'm very excited that it's my last one. That I'm, don't have the like sword of Damocles of like all the BookTube SFF Awards books because I'm not very good at dealing with that. Just like, leave them until the last minute. But the thing is, I knew from what people had said about the book, like people who loved it, people who didn't like it so much, like the commentary around that book, I was like, that's not going to be a me book. I knew that. People talk about the writing of it a lot. I didn't particularly, stop and think, oh, that's really beautiful prose when I was listening to the first bit of the audiobook that I've heard. I think I'm like 70 pages in and it's a 500-page book. But so far, I'm just like, I'm not, there's nothing that makes me want to pick it up again, except that I need to read it in the next like 7 days. But I don't know, maybe it picks up steam. I don't know. It's just this, the only cool thing that happens is the thing that they tell you that happens in the blurb, which is that this guy finds a book in the library that tells like his story of his life. But even then it doesn't, I don't know. I'm not getting many feelings from it. And it just seems a bit like,
Question.
I don't know why to care. I don't know why I should care about this character or this like intrigue yet, and I hope that I will know.
A question. Have you read The Night Circus? And if so, did you like it?
I did not read The Night Circus, but
Okay.
just because I didn't read it like when it came out, and then I didn't end up.
No, I'm just wondering that the slow burn and the sort of slowness of the writing style and stuff is very like it's a Morgenstern.
Yeah, I mean, Shannon says it doesn't pick up steam, and if you don't like the beginning, you won't really like it. Boo. Boo, I say. I mean, it's fine. It's just like, it's clearly just a thing that's not for me as opposed to a thing that's like bad. But yeah, because I mean, a lot of people like it and, fine. I'll keep reading it because I have to read it for the live show. But yeah, I knew I wouldn't really, But anyway, I have finally finished The Priority of the Orange Tree, which is the largest book in the world. And it was good. Like, I enjoyed it. That is my kind of book. I'm kind of struggling with why did it have to be a single 850-page book and not like a duology or a trilogy of regular-sized books. Because I don't think it was too long in terms of like, each of the scenes and chapters. Like, it didn't feel like it was dragging, but from the beginning to the end of the book, like, it's such a roller coaster of changes for those characters, like there are, I don't know. It just seemed like there was enough cool stuff in it that it could have been split and each bit could have had like a climax and some cool stuff happening and you wouldn't have to read an 850-page book. But
I'm still wondering if I should pick it back up because I DNF'd it around the 100-page mark because I was like there was so much name dropping, like, hey, here are all of these characters you should care about. I'm not going to tell you much of anything about any of them, and I'm not going to tell you how this world works in any possible way because you should already know. And I was like,
I mean, the thing is, like, for me, I don't mind this type of learning curve in epic fantasy. I feel like that's almost expected in epic fantasy. Whether that's good or bad is another discussion, but I feel like it's such a feature of the genre that I'm kind of like used to it. And I'm quite happy to just get on with it and trust that at some point I'll get what's going on, which I did. But I do feel like maybe there could have been a little bit more explanation of like the magic. There's a point where like there's there's like a country that hates dragons and a country that worships dragons as gods. And it's like, at one point you learn that there's two different, you always know that, I don't know, it's just like as to say to that they are two different types of dragons. And so I don't think that's a spoiler because it's not treated as this massive thing, but it's just like, okay. I just, maybe if it had been a series instead of a giant book, there could have been a little bit more, the learning curve could have been a little less steep. And then you could have had maybe a bit more in terms of like the world building and stuff.
Here's the thing. I feel like I didn't have a problem with the learning curve because let's take another fantasy, for example, the 5th season and the Broken Earth trilogy, which everyone and their mother says that that's like a very difficult fantasy to get into because it doesn't really hold your hand. And for me, the way that N.K. Jemisin sort of uses context cues for a lot of the world building details, like you can pick up things from context, that worked very well. I didn't have to worry about the glossary or anything like that because I felt that it was very, very intuitive. Whereas in Priory, I felt that that wasn't the case. That the learning curve wasn't because it was difficult to pick up. It was just that the author didn't put those cues in the first place, at least for me. But it's like, your mileage may vary.
No, but I would have to say I kind of agree with you. I don't think obviously, I read all 850 pages of it. I did enjoy it. I think there are many ways in which it works. I can think of a couple of reveals later on that I'm like, there's a baddie that's known under different names in different places, and I'm like, oh, but I'm sure they were mentioned, but I didn't get an idea how important they were, or maybe it wasn't developed enough when it was first mentioned. There's a couple of things in there, but I did actually really enjoy the ways that the different cultures were handled and the different world building and backstory for the different worlds. There is a whole thing in the very beginning of the book, and I started reading it, I don't know, maybe March, April, something like that, because Di and I were going to buddy read it, and then we both didn't manage to get our ducks in a row and just didn't, and now I had to finish it because the awards. But
yeah, I think we had planned to buddy read it, and then the pandemic happened, and
right. But I read the first section of the book in April, and then all of it this month, the rest of it. So the first section of the book goes more into the actual plague that exists in this book, right? Which is maybe I've overblown it in my head, in my memory, because I read it in the beginning of our plague, but it, there was things in it that I'm thinking back, I'm like, wait, did that go anywhere? And then there were things that I was like, that seems to have come a little out of nowhere. But there's definitely there's interesting conflicts in there with the country that hates the dragons and the country that worships the dragons, and then there's a country that has a founding myth that is untrue, which I think made an interesting point about how we talk about history and how we make up our histories and choose what goes in our histories and what we teach kids. but then that thing that's interesting kind of instead of being an interesting point about the nature of people, it was actually something that happened because of the intervention of the big baddie, which
that was the one thing that was the most interesting to me when I was reading the book, was the religious overtones and also the deification of historic figures. I thought that was the most interesting thing before I dropped the book. And if you're saying that sort of gets like,
I don't know. I mean,
I'm like a little disappointed.
I don't know. It's just at some point there's like, I don't want to say because it's like it's when it happens, it's an interesting reveal that explains a lot, right? But it is just, you know, I don't know that it fully undermines it. It just changes what story it's telling.
Okay.
But I don't know. I just I think it would have. I hate to say that it should have been longer, but I think it should have been, 2 or 3 books, and well, 3 books really, and then each could have been longer. Because the thing is, as well, when you think about where the character are at the beginning of the book versus the end of the book, it's such a huge shift that would be enough in each different book for characters to have a character arc within that book.
So I think. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think I think one reason why you wouldn't split a big book like this into several is if splitting it means that you wouldn't have an interesting climax or an interesting character arc, but I think those things were there.
I think it might have been like contract stuff, the reason why it was 1 book instead of several, just because she still has like 4 Bone Season books under contract.
Yeah.
And it could have been like she was writing this as a palate cleanser, and like she wrote the big book and took it to her publisher, and the publisher was like, great, this is like, we want to make sure that like your name is still out there. We want to make sure that like people are so excited about your series.
I think I actually read on her blog back when the book was almost ready to come out that she literally was supposed to be writing the next Bone Season novel and didn't. She just felt compelled to write this one particular novel instead. Yeah. So everyone was like, why don't you have the next one in the series? And she pops out with this one. And I could see her publisher not wanting to interrupt an ongoing series with another series and how people might perceive that.
Yeah.
Well, at least she was working on material, unlike Patrick Rothfuss.
What is Patrick Rothfuss doing? Do we want to go down that route? Is he just like, I don't know?
I mean, I only know that his editor released a statement that she hasn't seen a single word of the last book in the Kingkiller Chronicles.
Anything he's written in 6 years or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
But I don't care because he doesn't seem very nice. So
yeah,
I mean, I just thought that it was a fun joke
on my will not read list that I don't really feel like getting right now.
I mean, I have I've read only the first book, which back in the day when I was a wee little tween, I thought was okay. And I have the second one, which I haven't read. And they are both on my TBR shelf. And I'm like, should I read the first one to see if I still like it and continue on? But I'm also like, I don't even want to touch that because I feel like whenever you talk about Rothfuss or Rothfuss, Sanderson, and Robert Jordan are the like 3 bro magnets that you will soil your channel immediately when you discuss those books. Your comments will just be inundated with people being actually, and I'm not sure if I want that. Rachel, do you want to tell us what you are reading?
I am currently reading Vagabonds by Hao Jingfeng, which is translated by Ken Liu. I was a little bit nervous when I started reading this book. Like, I've been looking forward to it for a really long time because I've really liked Hao Jingfeng's shorter works that have been translated, like Folding Beijing, for example. But it has a really low rating on Goodreads, like really low, and I was really concerned about it. It's actually a very slow exploration of the economic, historical, and societal differences between a futuristic Earth and a sort of utopia set up on Mars after they fought a war. And it's really interesting. Like part 1 is all about economics. Part 2 seems to be history. I don't know what part 3 will be like, but probably revolution. But it's very interesting, and I feel like it's very, very Chinese. The way that the characters behave, in particular, it's not individualistic, I guess. Like I would expect not quite like that.
Is there a lot of filial piety?
Well, no, kind of, sort of, yes and no. Like the main character of the book is a young woman who, literally the first third of the book, she goes around asking people, do you think my grandfather is a dictator? And do you, like, she thinks that her grandfather was the one who sentenced her parents, his own child, to prison that then ended with them dying. And why did he do that? But at the same time, there's this huge pressure on her from everybody that she's supposed to uncover her family's legacy when no one will tell her about it. It's a weird dynamic. It's like you're supposed to respect and understand your family's history and legacy and what those who have come before you have done for you. But at the same time, no one will come out and talk to you about it. It's interesting, but it's very slow.
I think that actually sounds like a super interesting concept. This idea that you're trying to find out about a hidden part of yourself and a hidden part of history, and you're facing obstacles.
Yeah, it has a lot of potential for revealing character complexities. It's very easy at first to say, oh, this grandfather who's the consul of Mars, he is a dictator, he's a bad person, he's stuck to a particular set of ideals, which has led him down a very strict and narrow path that's been kind of cruel to people. But then you also have this opportunity to explore him as a private person, like his personal life, away from just being the so-called dictator of Mars. And it's also like this whole interplay between Earth and Mars cultures and what they think about each other, the assumptions they have about each other, and how that, like, the whole beginning of the story is that a group of Martian students go to live on Earth for 5 years after the war has calmed down. And when they come back to Mars, they're seeing their own society in a completely different way. And is that good or bad? You know?
That actually sounds really interesting. What was the book again?
It's called Vagabonds.
I'm just gonna pop that into my...
It's one of those rare books that I'm probably gonna do a whole review on, even though I don't think it's perfect. It's not like my favorite book of all time, but there's so much in it to talk about, I think, especially with the themes.
I'm just gonna pop the Goodreads link in the chat if anyone wants to check it out. Yeah. Do you have any other books?
The fiction one that I'm reading. I'm listening to the audiobook of The End of Everything, Astrophysically Speaking, by Katie Mack, which is Mack is a cosmologist, and this is all about physics and astronomy and the various ways that we theorize the universe will end. Oh, we lost Claire.
I will add her the moment she is available again. We completely lost her, it seems. Do go on. I will send a message to Claire.
But anyway, that's all that I'm actively reading right now. So lots of science.
Guys, I'm really sorry. I just wanted to like stop my camera for a second so I could close my window without having like my boobs just filling up the entire camera. But
I mean, that is fair.
I got
That is
myself
fair.
off of the stream, which I didn't mean to do. So apologies for that.
Yeah, no problem.
It was just getting cold.
So I guess I will tell you. I love this. When you said cosmologist, I heard cosmetology.
The other cosmology.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay, so I recently finished A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, which I actually thought was pretty decent, considering that I feel like recently I've had an especially hard time reading young adult fantasy because like it's sort of like when you read a lot of young adult fantasy, it sort of starts to like stories start to kind of blend in sometimes. Like authors are using very similar plot structures and plot points, so it almost sometimes feels like you're reading the same book over and over. But this one was very fresh. First of all, the stakes were high. The characters were actually doing stuff, and they were actually trying to use their talents in a way that would aid them. And I love it when characters are competent and they are actually like the author establishes a character having a skill set, and then they actually utilize that skill set. And I'm like, yes, more of this, please. More.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I also like that she established some weaknesses and character flaws as well, and they were consistent throughout. Like it wasn't like in some cases, like let's say. In some cases, it has felt to me that I established this character flaw so that I can use it at one point in the story when I want the plot to go in a direction that I can't otherwise have it going, and then that trait is never mentioned again. But in here, it actually felt like a part of the characters, and it wasn't forgotten at any point, and you were constantly aware of the character struggling with that thing. Like it has 2 point of view characters, and one of the point of view characters has anxiety and panic attacks. And as someone who has stage fright and social anxiety, I thought that it was very well handled. It wasn't like a life-altering impediment for the character, like they were living with it, but it was very like it was an actual hurdle for them to overcome. And like the character themselves, like he was allowed to still be strong and active and have agency despite having panic attacks and like having anxiety, which sometimes I feel like it is used as a crutch to make the character lose agency, if that makes sense. So I mean, I liked it. I listened to the audio. It has 2 narrators, and I thought that the audio was very nice. But I think I will also want to pick up the physical book and sort of go back and forth, especially with the names and stuff. So my recommendation would be like, if you want to read it and you can do audio, I would actually suggest doing both, because the physical book with having the literations of the names and stuff will probably help you out. But I thought it was good. It did some unexpected things and subverted a lot of tropes that I've seen YA do like a million times before, but this one did it in a very unique take. and it wasn't perfect, but I think I am gonna nominate it next year for the Lodestar because I think it was very. It was good. It was good. And the other thing that I'm reading currently is Forest of Souls by
so
Laurie
pretty.
and Lee. And I'm 70 pages in. And speaking of YA tropes, last weekend I complained about the one thing in this book to Rachel about this book has assassins, okay? And that there are these competing assassin students trying to gain the favor of this master assassin, like who will be her like main student that she will leave her post for. And one of them gets like a message that says like burn this message, like memorize it and burn it, and they never burn it. And like two other people see this note before it is destroyed, and I'm like, constantly, did you burn it? What about the note? Is it still in your possession? And I was just constantly hyper fixating on the notes that neither of them never destroyed, and I was like, she should pick neither of you. Neither of you should be the assassin master.
You can't follow those simple instructions.
It's pretty simple instruction. Wow.
But yeah, I'm having a little bit of like a trouble. I don't like, I have the same thing as you, Claire, where I don't want to pick it up because I'm so annoyed at other things. But then other things are handled like really well. Like, for example, this main character can actually fight, and she actually kills people as an assassin.
The number of assassin books that are like, here's a YA assassin book. Nobody,
Nobody kills anyone.
I'm sorry, but Katniss should have killed more people. I realized she wasn't an assassin, but like, it's weird that Katniss that doesn't actually kill people, Anyway,
it's that
I know she's the protagonist, but
yeah, but it's that weird thing where you want to have your protagonist like free of any guilt or repercussions, and I feel like that's very transparent, or like it's very like it feels like the author is scared of having to address the shittiness and the negative things that the main characters
can
end up doing.
You could address that because there is no ethical murder under dystopianism,
Yeah, and also if you are put in a ring and someone says, you have to kill all these other people or we are just gonna shoot you and all your family, I don't think you then have you don't really have a lot of sure, it would be difficult, but I think you would do it. Like the whole don't the tributes basically have the lives of all of their districts held at gunpoint, in a certain sense. So yeah.
Anyway.
So next up on the topic plan, what are we making? Does Rachel want to go first?
I am working on two things today. The first is, if I can hold this up properly, that's the front of a sweater.
Ooh.
This is my Weekender Light sweater, and I am past the halfway point, and I'm working on the front shaping of it now. So this is my knitting project. And then my crochet project right now, it looks like a bag. This is going to be a yoga mat bag, so it's a very long tube. And this is
it looks nice.
It's tapestry crochet, so it's color work with just two colors. So it's been a very, very fun pattern to do. This is the Fran Namaste yoga mat bag by Vincent Lewis. So it's fun. I like doing charts. Charts are addictive. You just want to do one more row so you can see the picture forming.
Yeah, it's kind of like pixel art in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, has anyone ever done the like Hama pearls, the thing where you do like pixelated stuff, and then you see your picture come together, and then you can iron it, and you have a lovely pixelated coaster or whatever. Perfect.
I like doing those like perla bead things. I like doing them a lot. I don't actually like how they look most of the time. I think you can get like mini perla beads that are like, if you're making those crafts as an adult, it just looks a little nicer than the chunky ones you have as a kid. But I think it's really soothing to do, because you have like little like tweezers and you place stuff and it's nice. But I just don't like how.
I mean, one of my friends did this thing. Like, he's really into that whole pearl arranging thing, and to help figure out what colors to use, he actually went and coded a program that if you put a picture in, the program will calculate all of the colors and all of the pearl colors, like what color pearls you need and how many. So I was like, isn't that kind of taking the art out of it? And he's like, nah, just automate everything. So what are you making, Claire?
Well, I am making absolutely nothing craft related. Because, oh my goodness, I'm having, I did not have a very good, somebody, I don't know if you saw this tweet making the rounds like the other week, where somebody was like, the day took a hold of me or something, instead of I've lost the course of the day. Like, it was just like, it just ran away from me. And I spend over 2.5 hours trying to record an episode of like anticipated books. And I don't know what is going on with me today, but I didn't even get through like a couple of, I mean, granted, it was like 23 books for 2 months or something ridiculous. But like, I've done those videos before in like maybe an hour and a half or something like that. And like, I was at 2:40 when I had to stop because we had a thing that we needed to do before coming to this live stream. I haven't had any lunch. I am just like, it's a mess. Like, today has been messy, and I don't know what I'm gonna do because I didn't even finish that video. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with that, because I don't really want to face redoing the whole thing. But now the light is entirely different, so it's going to be really bloody obvious if I try to finish it. So I can't actually focus on making anything right now, because like I have so much, like, I tried so hard to record that video and it completely didn't go. And now I feel like all I can do is like just breathe. So
I think that's also a very important thing to sometimes discuss, like the feeling that you always have to be productive and you always have to do things. And I feel like sometimes it is good to just admit to yourself, like, okay, today I don't have like the brain power and focus to do this specific thing, and I will just take the time for myself and just chat and have fun.
I mean, I see your point, but also I really don't think that was me today. Like, I mean, I am trying to take actual days where I do nothing and actual days off, because, usually I work 5 days a week, and then like the next 2 days I'm like trying to make videos for my channel. So but I just couldn't get, and Shannon says you can't get your words out in a video and keep doing retakes. And that's exactly what happened, because the thing that really bothers me is that I know when I go through and I edit the bit that I've already got, I'm managed to say exactly what I wanted to say in most of those cases. And so it sucks, because it's like 2/3 of a video where like it would be really good, but just it's not finished, and I was so done. And when you're so done, it becomes even more difficult. Anyway, I mean, right now, things that I'm doing things that I'm making aside from making video, not really craft related, but things that I'm making aside from making videos is in fact not tons. I am trying to journal a little bit more and doing a little bit of fun with stickers in my journal. And I'm also just signed up with the next Worldcon to work on their program, which is not quite like making a thing because it's not tangible, but it is a nice, like, interesting thing to do. And I was seized the other day when someone I know tweeted a picture of like a finished piece of cross stitch. It's just like, I really like cross stitching. I've not done cross stitch for like 10 years. Really should buy like a set of cross stitch. That like really should buy a cross stitch pattern and like do a fun cross stitch, And it's just like immediately thinking that. And when your ADHD brain says, here's a craft you should do that you haven't done in a while, it's good to actually give in and do that, as long as you don't buy all of the supplies as if you were going to do nothing but that craft for the rest of forever. So I'm going to try and buy like one kit.
I am in this comment and I don't like it.
Sorry?
I am in this comment and I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone down the rabbit hole of lace tatting, like
Oh man, no.
like I was watching those like COVID costuming YouTube channel live streams and stuff like that, and then they were talking about like making your own lace with like lace tape and stuff, and I just went down a rabbit hole of lace making videos and started looking at started favoriting pages where I could buy lace materials, and then I'm like, no, you can't do this.
The thing is, Raya, I saw one of those videos, right? I think I saw, and I don't think it was a CocoVid, like it wasn't Costume College live streams, but it was Morgan Donner's lace making video, and I saw that and I looked at it and I was like, this is very pretty. I would want to stab myself in the eye with the lace making needle, like after 3 stitches. It's so slow. And I
tiny loops.
Like I looked at it and I was like, this is very cool, but I knew that like it would drive me batty.
Also, bobbin lace making. That's also one of the things that I've been like watching with the like looping various strands. And I was very like, if you've ever seen the movie Kimi no Nawa or Your Name by Makoto Shinkai.
Oh yeah.
It is a movie where they make threads and they make it via this bobbing loom. And I was like, I could live all of my Your Name fantasies and thread making stuff if I just started doing bobbing lace. And I'm like, no, you are not starting new crafts all the time. Stop it. Dai, what are you making?
I'm working on my book blanket right now, but I think once I finish this row, I'm going to have to pause it for a while because I am completely out of the yarn that I'm using for science fiction, and Knit Picks isn't getting a restock till September. Yeah, September. So like, I need to, I think once I finish this row, take stock of what yarn I have and what yarn I'm going to need more of. Because I'm definitely getting to the, like, I have a sense now of how many blocks I can make out of one ball of yarn.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to need to do, or what stuff I'm going to need to buy. And I finished my Time Vortex. Well, I finished the bulk of it, my Time Vortex hat last night. I still need to do the brim and then add the detailing, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I really love
It looks so nice.
From Neighborhood Fiber Company. And I definitely want to do another project using this colorway. It's called Fog Point. I think it's Fog Point.
It's really pretty.
Yeah, it's a Black-owned yarn company based out of Baltimore, and their colorways are really pretty, and I highly recommend like checking them out. And
what's the name of the company? I can link it to the chat.
Neighborhood Fiber Company.
Okay.
It's these guys. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I just found their website.
I got the red. This is Cooper Circle.
Yeah. Like looking at their website, it seems like a lot of their yarn are named after like neighborhoods or areas in Baltimore or in the DC area.
Mm-hmm.
Which as someone who used to live there, it makes me very happy.
I've been a little bit nervous though, because I feel like the photography on their website isn't very good. And that's why I didn't buy this until I actually saw it in person. Like I went to a yarn store, finally, and was like, this does not look like the picture on the site.
That's why I always would want people to, because like, no matter how good the photography, like lighting and the way, like even wall texture can affect how a picture turns out, because how it diffracts light and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I would always want people to post pictures on their Instagram or on Twitter or whatever about their yarn hauls in different lighting, so that and tag the companies. That way people can actually like see various sources.
I spend a lot of time looking at people's you can look at people's stashed pictures on Ravelry if you're using Ravelry right now. And that's a good way to see a lot of different pictures and different lighting of colors as well. So, but anyway, since seeing you make that hat with that dye, I really want to get some of their like DK weight yarn and make another hat.
I found actually a pattern on Ravelry I want to do. It's for, I'm going to pull it up so I can accurately describe it. It's for like a longer cardigan that's open, like an open face cardigan. And looking at the photos of the completed pattern, I think something like the yarn that I use for this hat would work really well for it.
Mm-hmm.
I just I want to make an actual sweater first before I like buy a ton of yarn. But that's my next project, is finally doing the flax pullover from Tin Can Knits.
That is a lovely pattern. That is an amazing like first sweater pattern.
So I am still like, this is becoming like a running joke right now. Like I'm still making the scarf of Infinite Doom, which is a perfectly apt name for it. But if my hands start to hurt, that which they have been doing quite a while, I will continue painting. I'm making this.
Ooh.
So it's gonna have
That's
like galaxy stuff and some white highlights, and trying to make like an icy Eye of Sauron, basically.
Ooh, that's an interesting idea.
And this was what I finished earlier this week.
Ooh, I like is that like sky, like above the tree?
Yes.
That's really cool.
So I've been really enjoying just doing watercolor paintings, which is weird because I hate watercolors. Like watercolors are the bane of my existence, because I have no patience, and it's like you have to layer everything. I start from the lightest colors and plan ahead, and then you need to wait for the thing to dry and do the next layer. And it's like, I have no patience, and still for some reason I've been doing watercolor paintings these past few weeks constantly. So yeah.
Oh, do you have the other finished one with kind of like the Art Nouveau background?
Yes.
I think we were working on that in the last. Were you working on that last live show?
Yeah, it's finished now.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love the background on that. I love the circles that you did with the constellations in them.
Yeah, so I actually have this already in my print shop. I'm trying to make sort of like a series of various like Finnish mythological things. Like that is Finnish equivalent of the goddess Artemis. Basically, it's like a goddess of the forest, and she was also the mother of bears. She gave birth to bears, and that's why bears exist in the world, because she gave birth to them. And that is why bears are also godly creatures in Finnish mythology.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can't actually use the real name of a bear. That's why we have like over 10 synonyms for bear, because it was considered bad luck to utter the real name of the bear. So people would like sort of dance around actually naming it. Did we lose Claire again? Now we lost her completely.
She might have had to pop out.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure, but
Okay, she's back. Pop her back in. Okay.
Hey, sorry, my internet is, I don't know. My internet was going up, like you all were a little bit freezing and I couldn't hear you all of the time. So I tried to tether, which normally helps, and tethering just wouldn't work. So I'm sorry, I'm multiply cursed today.
Oh no.
Okay, everyone send thoughts and prayers to Claire's internet.
Yes, because those
So that-
famously do things.
Those famously do things.
Way.
Well,
Yeah.
well, the
I
other
wanted
thing
to tell
would be
you-
just
Sorry, I wanted to tell you, Rhea, about a thing because you were showing your Scarf of Doom.
Mhm.
That I believe had its color choices influenced by some books of Doom that we don't talk about.
yes.
And in case you didn't know, last year for Christmas, John gave the background, like just right here. I had Lego Hogwarts that John gave me for Christmas, which was great fun to put together, you know, because I like putting things together. But now, just stupid. I have to have this stupid thing in my right. I'm not gonna throw away this gift at my partner, you know. Anyway, so I think one of my next tiny craft projects that I'm gonna do is stage a trans rights matter protest in my Lego Harry Potter. So I'm gonna do I'm gonna do tiny flags and stuff, and I'm gonna replace all the banners with like flags and stuff.
I've been watching.
I don't want people to think that I'm, you know. Basically, I just want my position to be very clear. When this trash is ingrained in my brain and will never not be in my brain because so many years of my fucking life. However, human rights, you know, we like them.
I mean, I've been watching this channel called The Average Artist, and she does this. She paints over movie cover books and paints over them with like her own idea. And I've been toying with the idea of painting over basically defacing my Potter books and painting over my own versions of them and basically queering them up.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you? I don't know if everybody has seen, but which is G's vlogs over on the book roast. She's been doing this thing where she's painting the spines of her books, and she's like been showing people how she was doing it. And it's basically just like try to paint with like, you know, she makes sure that the paint doesn't like go and sog up all the pages. Like it's just something about the consistency of the paint has to be right. But she picks like the right color, and then she makes a stack of books and makes sure that the pages are all real clenched together so it doesn't go in the middle, and then she paints on them. And she did some really cute stuff, like on The City We Became, she did a black spine, and then she did some little tanto pen. And then on it was so cute. On The Martian, she painted all the edges red, and then she had like tiny gold, like lumpy potatoes all across the side of it. It was so funny. Like she pulled it up and it was red and it had these like lumpy yellowish thing, and I was like, potatoes, obviously. And then she was like, this was very stupid. I did potatoes. And I was like, it was really obvious and amazing. So kind of like, you know, I got a copy of Harrow the Ninth, and I didn't get black sprayed edges because they did the whole first printing of Gideon with black sprayed edges, but for Harrow they did a really small
I know
printing with black edges and I got boring white edges. So I was considering maybe doing something like that with Harrow, because I feel like you could do little bones on the side and stuff, but also
I actually like,
you know, hard.
I want my when I get the chance to actually buy a copy of Harrow, I want to do like blue sprayed edges. Because the cover is like that blue, like kind of like a metallic blue edge. That would be so cool.
Cool. That'd be cool. Yeah.
I also didn't get sprayed edges.
It's just tragic. It's just
and especially because
look at this like normie book.
Edges.
My book
took
like
got the
2 weeks to get to me, and it was like, and it wasn't my book store's fault. It was like a weird combination of like I had ordered it and then the warehouse like didn't process it right, so they had to reorder it, and then the warehouse did something weird, and then postal service fuckery, and
yes,
finally.
I mean, I love the covers of those books. I can't. I just like I'm a vain person. You can even sometimes even a bad book, I will keep it because I'm a vain person, and just looking at it on my shelf, I'm like, you are an aesthetically pleasing object, even though your insides are trash. Like sometimes I do that.
Yeah.
Just treat it as artwork and not as a book, I guess.
Yes.
I don't have enough bookshelf real estate for that. I have to be really aggressive about weeding my books.
I was very aggressive, and we weeded out all of the endings and stuff because I was like, I think I have held on to these a long enough time. They have gone with me from move to move, and I'm not going to reread them. And they are like, sure, there was childhood nostalgia, but now there's just meh, and so I just
if it helps with your decision of having Lee Eddings once spend a year in jail for child abuse, and the entire genre didn't know about it for the longest time, because
it just came out this year earlier, like in January or February, I think it came out. Like someone had gone over like documents and court documents and stuff and found out that David Eddings was actually in jail, and so was his wife for illegally detaining their foster children, keeping their foster son in.
I mean, we don't actually need to give details of child abuse on, you know, the live show, but yeah, it's yeah, it was, but yeah, I didn't know if I can't remember if we've discussed it on the live show, although it does sound like the kind of thing we would have talked about. But yeah, it yeah, I did an like KonMari cull of all my books last year in November, I think. I got rid of 250 books, right? My shelf, my goal is to have my my goal is to only have unread books on my TBR shelf, and for them to fit single stack on the TBR shelf. The TBR shelf now looks like this. So there's too many books on there, and then there's some boxes of books that I'm like holding for future book hauls. So as you can see, it's I'm preparing a video where I'm going to be talking about these Illumincrate boxes are great to store stuff on my shelf, but I'm preparing a video, like a book haul of just New Zealand books. So I got like this little preview. I got loads of like tiny little like novelettes and novellas, and I got the Capybara Pirate. That's
oh my gosh,
someone talked about
that was one of the best readings I went to, like probably at any of the World Cons I've ever been to. Oh, yeah. They did a fantastic job.
Yes.
AJ Fitzwater is the best.
I got Downhouse as well. I mean, I have loads more that should be coming because some stuff I couldn't find. So the thing is that are like international, like if you're in the UK and they came out in New Zealand or whatever, like for a lot of books like that, the only option to order it is Amazon. And I did not want to make an entire video that was like, here are a bunch of books you can only get. So I actually got most of these on Alibris, which is a website that like it's a directory of independent bookstores. So it tells you, like, say the name of the book, and it tells you which independent bookstore has it and that you can order it from. So I have been ordering from there, which is really cool. But some stuff I just had to order from New Zealand. Now I have no here. So I started planning for this video during the con. But I have no idea when I'm going to be able to actually make it because it's just some of it just is in transit.
I was really happy that they sent out the SJV voters packet again so that members could, because that was one of those fiascos within the convention, but I was really happy that they came back even once the convention was wrapped and let people have that opportunity again.
Yes.
There were definitely some things that I wanted.
And Raya Libris, but obviously it depends on where you are. I think in the UK it's libris.co.uk rather than .com, but I suppose, surely if you go on it using your browser, because it's on you, will be able to actually put it at the right spot for you.
Yes, and there is a drop-down menu where you can choose which site. Yeah. At least from a quick browse.
I did like the tweet about the Sir Julius Vogel packet that was like, in case you missed it. It's like, I'm sorry. What?
I just felt like everyone was making the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference with regards to how easily obtainable the voter packet was. And it was like, yeah, in the basement. So we good transition into talking about some of our favorite media that we have been enjoying. And I can start because I did the thing. I braved a movie theater, which was reckless, but also happily our local movie theater hugely limits the amount of people that can go at one time. And even then, not a lot of people actually went. So basically, it was just me and partner and like 5 other people in the movie theater. We went to see Akira by Kazuhiro Otomo in 4K, in glorious 4K, and it was beautiful. I have seen the movie like 15 years ago, the last time, and or something like that. And I've always seen it in the English dub. And this was the first time I saw the original Japanese voiceover for it, and I was like, whoa, my mind is blown. This is so great, and it looked so beautiful. Just the like it's all hand-drawn animation, and it was so beautiful to look at, even if you don't like the story, because sometimes the story is a bit like it's a lot. It's a lot, but like it was just like a visual treat. And now I'm in quarantine for the next 2 weeks, but it was worth it. Who wants to go next?
I think, I mean, like the only things I've been watching have been, well, Farscape with you, Raya. Slowly working our way through season 1. Most of my watching, though, has still been binging, like, the 20 seasons of Time Team. There are like 200 episodes and over 20 years. I'm halfway through season 7 right now, so that's pretty much it. Just watching soothing British archaeologists rave about Anglo-Saxon pottery.
The pinnacle of action.
We've just been watching more. Hand-picked episodes of The Simpsons because now we have Disney Plus, and John really loves The Simpsons. And when I was a kid, available on like a channel you had to pay for, so I've only seen like tiny bits of it. And like, there's so much of The Simpsons, and a lot of it is quite bad. Like, it has gotten very terrible recent. Well, I mean, but it's like when you look, like, I don't know. I guess the people making it got old and rich and started making jokes about character traits of the characters that had previously been, like, seen as positive. So now they make fun of Lisa for caring about shit. So anyway, but there are some really good, funny earlier on, and John has a terrifyingly good memory, and so he's just like, oh yeah, that one, and that. So that's the most thing we've been watching. Although, in terms of like a soothing piece of British television, there's a channel in. When it was launched was like genuinely just softcore porn, and now they've just migrated into, and I don't know how long ago this is, right, but this is just like the change of brand of what they do now. Now they do all these like really, they do a bunch of documentaries where they go and, well, not documentaries, but like basically like a somewhat realistic, or somewhat, I don't know, it's not a documentary and it's not a reality TV show, right? It's a bit in between, but they like go behind the scenes and show you how stuff works in like various different things. Anyway, now we're watching Inside Legoland, I think, and it's like literally just like 3 episodes about various different people doing their jobs at the Legoland park, which is a theme park in the UK for like kids that has some rides, and also like a thing called Mini Land, which is like a bunch of the like world landmarks recreated in Legos. So there's like a Lego Mini Land London and stuff, and and all the people working there are literally all people that are like, I love Lego so much. And it's like their dream jobs, and they're so happy, and they're like, it's the kind of place that you can see all the people that work there are all, but we enjoy our job and we do it well and blah 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 blah, because it's like because it's this big of a brand that people love so much, they can kind of like they can afford to only get people that care about. And I don't know, I just find it soothing to watch people that are like A, really good at what they do, B, really care about what they do, and C, it's always fun to know how things work. And so I really like it. We've been watching stuff like, oh, how does this international really expensive hotel that like caters to royalty like operate in the background, like shit like that. I don't know. I find it so soothing. It's literally crack. So anyway,
what's the name of it again? What?
I just find it really
sorry, you cut out on me.
Sorry, I just find it really soothing to see how stuff works like that. If you give me like a big hotel or a big theme park and you're like, here's how it works in the back, I just really like that. And so been watching that, and also some Oversimplified as well, which is a YouTube channel that does like oversimplified history lessons, which is sometimes silly, but what can you do? It has funny jokes, and it tells you about historical things. And if you already know the period, it's not like, but it gives you a decent overview.
So. Speaking of history, I've been watching this channel called, let's see. Johnny Harris.
Oh.
And he does this like backpacking videos and stuff, but he's done a lot of videos about history, and specifically how maps have changed through history. Like it talks about, he has videos with provocative titles such as how the United States stole Puerto Rico, and how the United States stole Hawaii, and how the United States stole Texas or stole Mexico, essentially. And they are really good videos. I will put his channel name in the chat. So I've been really enjoying watching those, just for like more like a historical context. He has stuff like why the date line thing is the way it is, why there's Greenwich Central Time and stuff like that. So he does videos on that, and also like debunking stuff, like debunking flat Earth theory.
I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned this before on the live show, but like my most soothing YouTube watch, if stuff is stressful, is literally always watching people dye or somebody else's hair, like just hair dyeing videos. Mwah. So I've been watching a lot of hair dyeing videos. So rainbow hair and stuff, that kind of thing. Anyway.
Oh yes.
And I mean, how many of us have just been watching all the CocoVid live streams and videos?
Me.
Oh, I haven't, because
I'm working my way through the gigantic master list of all of the CocoVid videos, which is like well over 100 videos. And now I'm watching everything from Engineer Knits. So
yeah, I found so many new costume channels.
And Abby Cox, who is just a firecracker.
The thing is, I feel like I should be watching them in order to discover more people, but also like I realize it feels like somewhat of an asshole thing to say right now whilst doing a live stream, but oftentimes times I find, compared to an edited video, oftentimes I find a live stream kind of meanders. And if I put it on, even if I put it on like at 1.5 speed, which is how I normally listen to videos, I just can't really focus because I have to do something else at the same time. Otherwise, I don't know. So I haven't been listening to the live streams because there's so many and there's so long. But yeah.
So I will say they did a great job with moderating a lot of the CocoVid live streams, and most of them they were structured, like they were working off of outlines and pre-planned discussions and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I think that's the case with most of the stuff on like Bernadette Banner's channel and Costuming Drama as well. But there's people who are like super planning everything.
Also, they had a lot of like slides. I was very into all of the PowerPoint slides on all of the live streams. And also, I just watched the extant garments and like plus sizes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like the garment inclusiveness of historical garments, where they debunked myths that everyone in the 19th century had, like 18-inch waist.
That was the one with Mima, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and the
Mima clothing, which I thought it was really cool. They added her phone to the live stream so that she could do like special close-up shots during it. So they had slides, and then they had this like special camera to show you the garments on the forms and everything.
I think that's a Zoom feature because they were using Zoom for the live stream. So
what I find really interesting as well is like when you hear the explanation of why we think that it's only that all corsets were like cinching to 18 inches and stuff. Like obviously some of it is just misogyny, but it's really interesting to know they reused everything because it costs like an arm and a leg to get a corset to like, clothes cost a lot of money when they were made by, children in factories abroad, got reused. And so like you don't find regular people size corsets because regular people size corsets were being reused over and over again, and then they fell apart. And the corsets that you find that are tiny, it's like they were worn by young rich women, like before they had kids or whatever.
Also, they were talking about stuff like how museums, especially fashion history museums, curate differently than your local history museums, where those like fashion history museums would like buy more collections that had so-called straight sizes because they want to project a certain kind of image as well. And another interesting thing they talked about is that how a lot of the clothes that we associate with this Victorian female ideal were actually children's clothing. Like the sizes were for like pre-teens and teenagers. And that is why you get those like narrow waists and narrow busts and stuff, because they were literally children. So I'm just gonna pop that. Also, hello, Angela from Literature Science Alliance has joined us. So hello. I'm kind of gonna pop the. Let me just see if I can find the COVID master list, and I will pop that.
Even people who are not into like historical clothing or costuming or whatever, the 2-part live stream on Bernadette Banner's channel about like the technical side and behind the scenes of YouTube. It's long. It's like 3.5, 4 hours of live stream, but that is one of the most interesting and open discussions of being a professional on YouTube and like making money from it that I've ever seen. and like they got into the stats side of it and literally showed their analytics and everything and talked about this whole like a whole bunch of stuff. So if anybody's interested in what it's like to actually make a living from YouTube, the realities of it and the marketing and everything, it's a really interesting 2-part live stream.
Also, I have just put the master list, COVID master list link to the chat. And if you want to watch costuming, like live streams, history, workshops and stuff, just to let you know, it's 138 videos. So you can pick and choose what topics interest you. But it's amazing. Oh no, go away. Oh, thank you. Okay.
I've mostly been catching up with campaign 2 of Critical Role. I kind of go off and on watching Critical Role, and now is kind of on part. So I'm just trying to get through as much as I can. So I'm no longer like 30 episodes behind. And I've also been watching Nailed It Mexico because I love the Nailed It format. I find it a lot of fun. So that's on Netflix. And then I've also been watching the new season of Good Eats Reloaded. Is it Good Eats? Yeah, it's basically Alton Brown revisiting like old Good Eats episodes where people have been like talking about how the recipes that he initially had don't work, or he's revised the recipes in like the 20 some odd years since they originally aired.
That's cool.
Yeah, and like I like that Alton Brown will go into the science of why things work the way they work in the kitchen. So
I watched an interesting documentary on Netflix called, let me just double check before I butcher the name. The Mask You Live In. And it is a documentary about masculinity and how society socializes men differently than women, and how and it focuses on the United States. That's one thing that I appreciated very much about this documentary, that it states that this is about the United States and we will not assume that every society treats masculinity the same way, which was, I thought that it was good. And it basically goes over like with statistics and interviews and stuff, and it interviews a lot of men, and they tell about their experiences with basically having had to numb their feelings from a young age because society expects men to act tough and to not show emotion. And it was very interesting, and it shows like stats about how differently children start behaving. And there were lots of like psychiatrists and psychologists who had done studies with children on these issues about how boys will start to exhibit certain changes in behavior when they reach different ages. I thought that was really interesting, so that's what I would recommend people to watch that. So it was The Mask You Live In.
That sounds really interesting, actually.
Yeah, I just happened to watch it purely. I was just watching stuff like to watch while I was working on my paintings and stuff, and I was like, okay, I'll watch this, and it was really gripping, and it wasn't about. That's another thing. It wasn't about advocating abolishing masculinity or femininity. it was mostly about advocating for representation and the idea that men and women should be allowed to represent themselves in a more free way than how they currently can.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really fun. Not fun, interesting, illuminating.
Yeah.
And another documentary, because I've been on a documentary kick, was Disclosure, which talks about transgender representation in movies and media. And it goes through like basically from the birth of cinema up until present day, and it interviews various transgender actors and actresses and activists and scholars about representation in the media and how that might link to violence and real life issues. So yeah. So we have about half an hour to go before our end time. Does anyone have any interesting new book releases they want to shout out that are coming out in September?
Like 23 of them.
Yeah. The new Marco Shiro book comes out September 15th, and I need to pre-order it. But I'm really looking forward to it because I like Marco Shiro's writing a lot, and the premise of his new book just sounds really, really interesting, and I'm really excited to see like the world building stuff and everything.
Yeah. I just made a face because it's not. I just realized it's not actually on my fucking list yet.
Oh no!
Yet. I don't know. I mean, I know it's coming out. I think I have an arc. So it's like, I just don't know how I'm going to do. I have to just bite the bullet and finish it tomorrow and be like, it's the next day because I sucked at recording yesterday. Because, you know,
2020 is an existential nightmare.
Ooh, Shannon, you have a Latsue?
So
I just got
I want that. I want that.
I feel like we should like buddy read or like organize a group of buddy read of this book. I so want to read it with somebody.
I want that book so much. But I also luckily
from the library.
Yeah, I sent a purchase request to my library because I was like, I continue to be broke. So
did Maya buy a copy of it?
Yes, I think so. But basically, I'm dreading the day when my library system decides that they are going to blacklist me from making purchase requests because I feel like I'm just every month I have.
They wouldn't do that. I mean, no.
I mean, most likely they will just inform me that it's not within their budget right now. Like, sorry,
they don't want you to start making listen to the library is a service. Like, I mean, I don't know. Why don't you tell us about how libraries work? Because you actually know.
So, I mean, I work in an academic library, so like ours is more like trying to balance the fact that journal publishers charge a truly ridiculous sum of money because journal publishing is a scam. But the way it works normally is, from what I remember from library school, it's a balancing act. It's you have X amount of money over a certain period of time to buy books. There are certain books that are going to be popular, so you buy those in bulk. So like, using a recent example, not that I'm going to read it, but like Midnight Sun, that book's going to be popular. You're going to be getting a lot of holds on it. So you would buy a lot of copies. With digital stuff, it's a little different because it's based on licensing and not like outright purchasing. So again, you have to balance the fact that you only have a certain amount of money. You need to take into account like how many people are requesting this book. Does it fit in with your collection development goals? That type of thing. So they probably wouldn't blacklist you. Like, I know for the public library system that I use Overdrive for, I'm limited to how many purchase requests I can put in over, I think, a week or a month. I think it's a week. Yeah, so I can only put in like 5 purchase requests on Overdrive a week, and there's no guarantee they're going to buy it. So like I have some stuff that I like put in purchase requests for years ago, and I doubt, like at this point, I doubt they're ever going to buy it, but like that request still lives in the system.
I mean, to be fair, this is just my anxiety brain being like, I must not be imposing to the poor people who work at the library, and I'm making their job difficult by spamming their request box.
They want to know what their patrons want to read. I mean, their job is to provide you with what you want to read. So
yes,
don't feel bad about it.
I found this like site called Book Release Dates that just has like congregated directories per month about release dates. So I'm just gonna pop this into the chat as well.
Since Tor stopped doing their monthly release roundups for the different like genres, it's been hard for me to remember like when things are coming out.
Yeah, I'm like incredibly into. I don't always want to go on Goodreads or stuff to watch these, because first, they're not always up to date. They are not always the correct information, and Goodreads sucks. So if I can find places to use other than that, then I will. Okay, so I'm seeing that in September, Naomi Novik's A Deadly Education should be coming out, so I'm interested in that. All that dark academia feels. I mean, it's gonna be hard for any book to top Vita Nostra as like the dark academia, witchy fantasy, but I'm eagerly looking forward to that. And then there is Miss Meteor by Taylor K. Mejia and Anna Marie McLemore that's coming out.
Yeah.
So, because Anna Marie McLemore at this point is one of my favorite authors. So.
I also have Miss Meteor on my list. The thing about A Deadly Education, right, is that for me, that Naomi Novik was one of my favorite authors, but I find that I'm liking her stuff like almost less and less, if that makes sense. Like, I really love Temeraire, and I really love her fanfic. I liked Uprooted, but there were bits about it that I was kind of meh on, and same with Spinning Silver. I liked Spinning Silver, but it could have been better, and also both were, both of those books just had really interesting female friendships that I was like, surely it's gonna go not that it has to go anywhere, friendship can be friendship and it's extremely valuable, but I was just, of those books, I read those really important relationships between young women, and I was like, they should smooch, because it felt shippy to me, and then they didn't smooch, and now she has a book that's set in with like a half Desi main character, and it's not I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like, she has an enemies to lovers book set in a magic school character, because in case people don't know, Naomi Novik writes a lot of Harry Potter, Harry Draco fan fiction, and there's a lot of like Harry as a Desi character, fanfic, not just make one of your published books queer. Why?
Yeah, I will say that even though I actually really love that Naomi Novik does platonic female relationships because, like, and she does them fairly well. And I'm always really into when an author writes female relationships that one are platonic and two are not catty. The girls are not being catty to each other and are not trying to diminish each other. I think that's as important. But at the same time, having read a fair amount of her books, I will say that they are almost aggressively straight. Like, you don't have any side characters, or not even an offhand mention of some couple off in the back alley doing a little kiss and kiss. Like, you don't have that. So it's like, because that is like, maybe it's just because that's my experience of the world. Maybe I live in like in a completely queer centric circle of friends and stuff. But you should have even like a little something, like show us someone holding hands with someone like that, to kind of like let us know that this exists in your worlds. You know.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It just feels to me like there is something about the fact that, like, you know, she writes mostly MM fan than all of her like published works, and particularly Uprooted and Spinning Silver, which kind of made it big, both have like somewhat of an unbalanced relationship, younger female character and a like older, way more powerful male romantic lead, and it's just getting weird at this point.
That right there is what caused me to kind of tap out on Naomi Novik. Like I had the same experience as Claire, where like I've liked her stuff less and less as I've been reading it, and Uprooted is the last thing I read by her, and I won't rant about that right now. At the same time, though, I kind of want to read her new book because it seems really different from the previous.
I mean, since we buddy read Vita Nostra together, should we buddy read Deadly Education at some point? Like, not
why not, and see if it's what it's kind of billed as or not. Yeah.
Okay, so things in September.
New October
thing that I thought about because of what you just said, Ria. There's a book called The Scapegracers by Hannah Abigail Clark. It's the first in a series, and it's just always fun. So the main it's got a plot that when you hear it, you're like, oh, that's a 90s film, and I've definitely seen it. But it's about an outcast teenage witch who like finds herself like integrated into this like group of popular girls, like because they, I don't know, she's doing magic at a party and they like integrate her in their coven. But the thing that made me
sorry,
actually
I just
like
squealed because I saw it.
What?
Sorry, I just squealed because I saw the summary, the tagline. So I was like,
okay, so the tagline is an outcast teenage lesbian witch finds her coven hidden amongst the popular girls in her school, badass magic in the process, which fine, like that sounds like a book that you've definitely read before. It says in the very bottom of the Goodreads summary, if you go and look at that, this book subverts the trope of competitive mean girls and mercilessly supportive clique of diverse and vivid characters. Yes, that is how actual, like, you know, people. That is how people who were not socialized as boys hang out with each other. So, you know, and as someone who,
I just added it.
As someone who has a mercilessly supportive clique of, you know, lovely friends, you know, I felt seen. I mean, not about the witch thing, but I thought that that one line, I was like, you get added immediately. There is one that I'm just really intrigued by because of like the title and cover, and that's Master of Poisons by Andrea Hairston. And that's coming out September 8th from Tor.com. It's one of their novels, so it's like almost 500 pages, and it's literally about like a poisoner. It's about the right-hand man and spy master of the lord of this whole like fantasy empire, trying to like save the country from exile. And you've got a woman you've got a young woman who's training to be a griot, and like, you know, it says, a world of sorcery, floating cities, kindly beasts, and uncertain men. So
That's what I'm looking
Nice.
for.
yeah, it just looks
Oh.
beautiful. And then, not to tell you everything that's in my video coming up, but well, that's actually an August one. It's already out. But one that I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before. But there's a book called Star Daughter by Shweta Thakrar, and that's like about a girl who's half star and half human, and she has to go to like the court of stars in the sky to, you know, I don't know, get some help for reasons. But basically, there's like a magical competition to like become the heir of the stars in the sky, and you win or you never go back to Earth. I mean, you know, there's just like stakes, and I love a magical competition. So those are the things that I'm like, I need to check those out really, really soon.
One of
I
mine,
just saw,
two of mine. Everybody knows that Piranesi is coming out in September.
yes,
Everybody-
yes,
I also really want to read that.
me too.
And then the Tea Dragon Festival.
Tapestry.
Oh, Tapestry, that's it. Yeah, the third in the Tea Dragon series. I want more cute tea dragons and all the inclusivity in the children's storybook. Yeah.
Same.
You know. Oh, and Katie O'Neill is a New Zealand author, illustrator.
Oh,
Yes,
Mhm.
that she is. I just saw a short story collection that's coming out in September called Vampires Never Get Old, Tales with Fresh Bite. That's been edited by Zoraida Cordova and Natalie C. Parker. And it has stories by Samira Ahmed, Doniel Clayton, Tessa Gratton, Heidi Heilig, Julie Murphy, Mark Oshiro, Rebecca Roanhorse, Laura Ruby V. Schwab, and Kayla Whaley. And I'm just like I can give or take V. Schwab, but like, you know, give me anything Rebecca Roanhorse writes, basically.
Yeah, that one looks good.
Black Sun.
Rhea, I'm putting Goodreads links in private chat for you to put in public chat, because I don't think I can put links.
Yeah.
But I've given you Goodreads links.
Yeah, that one comes out in October, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have it pre-ordered. I can't wait.
same. I also have it pre-ordered.
I'm looking forward to the new October Day book. The last book felt like, so I really love the series, but I felt like the last book was kind of like treading water a bit for plot. Like it felt very much the plot. There are certain plot threads from several books previous that need to be wrapped up before Toby's storyline could move forward. And so like it was fine, but it wasn't my favorite entry into the series. But next one, we're going back towards Simon and Toby and Tybalt's wedding and all of that stuff. So I'm hoping the plot works better for me this time.
That's a really long series at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, this is like book 14, I want to say.
Which book is this? Like October Day?
Yeah, it's the new October Day book. It's called, excuse me. I asked my library to buy it because I like all my books to match, and ever since they switched to hardcover, they don't match.
Oh my god.
Anyway,
they have only published the first 3 of her encrypted books in the UK. And so I have like 3 UK sized paperbacks and then like a bunch of mass market US paperbacks. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? That, first of all, this series was nominated for Hugo a bunch of times. Like, actually release the fucking rest of them in the UK, you cowards. But number 2, it looks fugly. I have to have like, 3 of them standing and the rest of them in a stack because it doesn't even work.
Claire,
we
when
could
you
go
go
on a
for
separate.
we'll hit up some bookstores in the DC area, and you can get the first 3.
The first one is actually signed though from LonCon.
But I always think of those kind of like as a separate thing, like that's like a memorabilia souvenir kind of thing. So it's okay to hold on to a separate copy that's sort of like a special thing.
It's okay. I just don't want to rebuy 3 books because that's expensive. And I could buy 3 new books.
True.
That is like, I mean,
yeah, Rachel, A Killing Frost is number 14.
Sorry, I interrupted.
That's so many books.
The Sean and Maguire.
Yeah,
there's like 14 books in a series feels like a number of book that is only okay in a series if you're reading it as a teenager. And I don't mean to say that as a, I don't mean to like throw shade on anybody who does that. I mean, for me, like, I would not have the patience today. Like, absolutely not. Encrypted is the longest series that I've been reading, and they're on number 9, and it keeps changing characters, which is the only reason that I like keep being interested in them. And this particular encrypted book that I've got, we went to the point of view of a new character, and the entire first 8 books in the series, they've talked about how funny it is that this girl and her cousin are in love with each other, and the only 2 people that don't know are the 2 of them. And I know they're not related because she's technically not human, she's a cryptid, but it's still fucking weird.
I mean, I have this thing with Robin Hood as well, because she had like Realm of the Elderlings is like 16 books, and I read the first 3, and like I'm looking at the next ones, and I'm here like, I really want to continue, and I should continue, but also 16 books is a lot. It's a commitment, and I'm not sure.
I mean, I don't know, because I haven't read the Toby Day books, because I read the first one and it was super fucking depressing. And I didn't, I literally almost stopped reading Toby Day after the first chapter, where she gets cursed by a bad fae and spends like 15 years as a koi fish, and then like her daughter doesn't remember her or some shit. So literally cried on the tube and almost didn't pick it back up again. And that was her first published book, and it's just not, I just think it's not as good as the rest of the series from what she herself has said, in terms of it's a debut, like, whatever.
So I've been reading these books since 2012. Yeah, I started reading them when I was delivering pizzas.
Your reading experience is in elementary school. Your reading of those books, 8 years, is in elementary school. I made a crappy joke. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, so I've been reading them for a really long time now, and like the series definitely gets better. And one thing I actually do really like about long series is that stuff happens in later books, and then you like realize that this stuff was planted pretty much from like the first book. And so I really like the fact that with longer series you can see plot threads like take root and germinate, and then you also have time to like put plot threads aside and pick them up at a later date. And so it's not just like the same thing over and over. It's very like there's a variety of stuff, and so that's why you can have books like the last one, I'm completely blanking on the title. I think it's The Unkindest Tide, where the plot like feels a little weaker, but you get like the emotional satisfaction of seeing plot threads that had been there for a really long time finally get resolved.
Mhm.
So like it's definitely a commitment, and I can understand why, like with 14 books, you might not want to go with it. But I also think as someone who really appreciates like having a long series, it works really, really well. And they're published on a consistent schedule. And they're not a million pages long. Looking at you, George R. R. Martin.
I also wasn't didn't it get nominated for best series at some point and drop with like all of the books in the packet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have all of them. I downloaded it.
So like if it gets nominated again, pack it.
Yeah.
Which it should, right? Because it didn't win?
No, it didn't win.
Yeah.
And I think it will be eligible next year.
Sweet.
I still have no idea how the series eligibility thing works. Like, it just...
You have to have a certain amount of new words in the... It's...
Yeah, there's like... You have to have 3 entries, and there's a certain word count, so that's like why her...
That's why Murderbot wasn't eligible straight away.
Yeah, same with Wayward Children, is because
exactly.
the novellas, it takes longer to hit
Well,
that mark.
now I am incredibly annoyed that Rosewater trilogy didn't win, since Expanse would be eligible. It still has eligibility because they haven't released the last book yet, so anyway.
Yeah, Temeraire unfortunately wouldn't after Temeraire. Anyway, I wanted Temeraire to win because it was its last chance, and I like it, but fine. Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, sorry, the thing about the Robin Hobb books is that they are chunky, but they are each, and there are a lot of them, but they're each like, here's a trilogy and the story wraps up. Here's another trilogy and the story wraps up, and it's in the same world, but I find it easier to digest that way, you know, rather than like, here's one book after another, and you have to like keep, and but I will say also the thing about the Toby Day books is that the first one was like a bit mystery-ish, like they have to figure out who killed somebody, and it's just not my favorite genre, so
yeah,
there is also that.
I love mysteries. I haven't read a whole lot of mysteries this year, but like I love cozy mysteries and how tropey and ridiculous they are. And like if we're going with like Encrypted is very much like a primetime family drama.
Yeah.
And Toby Day is more of like a cable detective drama. And so like tonally they're very, very different. So like for me, I do like the Encrypted ones, but like I don't like them for I like them for very different reasons than I do the Toby books. Like the Toby books, I like the mystery component or like the more detective component versus the family stuff with Encrypted.
Yeah, and also with Encryptids, I really like the cryptid stuff, you know, just the world building of the cryptids and like the kind of sociology aspect of them and stuff. And it just a friend of mine recommended me the Encrypted books after we were watching Fantastic Beasts and it was bad. So after we got out of the cinema, she was like, yeah, if you want to see like if you want to see a thing that has like the good parts of this movie, but without the bad parts and with also like a little bit of Buffy thrown in. So if you want to see like Buffy, but with critters, read that. And I was like, yes. And yeah, it tracks. I think it's a very accurate, like put your finger on it, like recommendation. Yeah. Because if that sounds good to you, you will like those books.
Yeah, and I will like the last thing I'm going to say about this before we can move on to a different topic is like in terms of when it came out, when the first Toby Day book came out, it very much follows like the urban modern fantasy conventions of the time. Like there are things that are like reading it. There are things that are really similar to the Dresden Files, which I do not recommend, even though I have the latest book checked out from the library because I am a messy bitch who loves drama.
Yeah.
But yeah, like in terms of like there being a central mystery, there being a cast of characters that grows over time, there being plot threads that keep coming in. Like it very, like I said, it follows, I think, a lot of what people were expecting from urban modern fantasy. And then with Encrypted, it like I said, it has a very different tone and a very different focus.
I mean, it makes sense because it was her first book, you know, that it would follow kind of more. And I feel like now people kind of expect that there's a certain style of, you know, like, oh, it's Shauna Maguire. You're going to be like shocked and, you know, anyway. Sorry, Rhea.
Yes, I will now inform you that we are a minute past our usual runtime, so I will have us,
Sorry.
closing thoughts, closing words. What's coming up for you in the pipeline? What are you excited about? You know, all the things. Rachel, will you go first?
I'm going to be reading a lot of Otherwise Award winners.
Yeah.
I had this realization probably around the time that Worldcon happened, so a couple weeks ago now, that like my two projects that I launched this year were like reading a whole bunch of SF Masterworks and reading the Otherwise Award winners. And one of these projects means reading like 20 some odd books by old white dudes that were published 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And the other one is, let's read all of the best queer feminist books from the last 10 years by diverse authors. Guess which one of those projects is way more fulfilling and interesting right now?
Yeah.
Surprising.
Like all three of us going like, I would never do those projects you do. They sound like a pain in the butt.
I might be complaining right now about SF Masterworks, but it is actually very interesting to read those in within like the historical context of the field.
Yeah.
That's why I do it. But it can become too much, especially when I'm like reading a bunch of those, not enjoying some of them, and I feel like all of the way more interesting new stuff is passing me by. So yeah, I've basically finished a batch of Otherwise Award winners, so I'll be doing my first batch wrap-up of those, and now I have to go out and probably buy copies of a whole bunch of the other ones that I want to read this year, because many of them are from like Aqueduct Press and little places like the library does not get those. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm just happy that you're doing those projects, because then I can watch your wrap-ups and reviews and just cherry pick the ones that sound interesting, because you've already done the major labor of sorting the bad ones out of the good ones.
This is what people often tell me is, I'm going to let you read that so that I don't have to.
Yeah. And I can still be in the loop and in have the context of the classics of SFF when someone comes in like, actually.
Yeah.
I do find your videos very, very interesting in terms of like historical context and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just don't
want,
you know.
The two really important things I've learned from all of my reading projects of things, you know, throughout all the past decades is, one, it's really, really true that you do not need to read the canon in order to appreciate the genre, to appreciate any genre at all, like science fiction, fantasy, mysteries, whatever. You do not need to read everything in chronological order since the beginning of the awards.
I have gotten this with anime since the day I started in the, like, it's always like, you need to watch these specific series in order to appreciate, like,
but you know, it's not.
If you want to watch them, do it, but it's not like
mandatory. The second thing I've learned is that there are gems from every decade. No matter how much some of this stuff, like golden age of sci-fi, might get a bad rap today, there are still a couple worth reading from back then. So
I mean, the thing is, right, that you can't actually do stuff like read a bunch of yeah, I mean, you can obviously, but I just don't understand how somebody can read like a bunch of canon classic sci-fi and then not interrogate like, how does this stuff actually get canonicized? Like, who decides what gets to be a classic? Because it's men. Like spoiler alert, it's white men. So, and it's not necessarily, I mean, it's a very complex way, it's a very complex and subtle way that this kind of stuff happens. But like when you look at the canon and when you look at how that canon got to become the canon, it's just a lot of it is because, hey, there was some great works by women and people of color, but we decided that actually we're only going to remember like one book by this person and say that it was a bit of a fluke that they wrote an exceptional book and not look at the rest of the backlog of what they've written and blah, blah, blah. I mean, basically, read How to Suppress Women's Writing.
I still need to get to that one. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I hijacked that. And Shannon, no, I'm never going to make a video like that because then I will have white male internet fandom come after me.
Reply guys.
Our fantasy and our sci-fi subreddit crowds to your channel immediately.
Do not.
So it's like, do not do that.
If John Scalzi does it regularly on his blog and he still has to put out firestorms every single time, I'm not going to do it.
Claire.
I don't know because I need to finish that one massive video that somehow took longer to. Anyway, yes, I have been noodling with the idea because normally after Worldcon I do a wrap-up video that's like my experience at Worldcon or a vlog of Worldcon, and I didn't do that this time around because I was upset and angry and tired. Because of putting together like the French stuff before the con and then doing the con and all of that. And then also I didn't end up going to like a lot of actual panels because I was on some panels, and aside from the panels that I was on, I didn't end up watching a lot of them because they were all like in the middle of the night for me in the UK, and they had gotten agreements for panelists that they would have the panels up until like a certain date, which was like maybe a week after, like 4 or 5 days after the con actually finished. And like, I kept trying to look for, on the first, like the convention started at like 10 p.m. or whatever for me. And like the next day when I woke up, I was like, an entire day of con has happened in New Zealand and now it's going to be online and I can watch it. And that first day of con wasn't online for like 2 or 3 days into the con. So like, it's just by the time that it was all there and that I could have gone and watched like a bunch of it, like the Hugos had happened, it had been a disaster. Then they didn't put me in a souvenir book and I was upset. Like there was so much crap that I was just so mad that I didn't. So I ended up not doing enough. I ended up not doing a lot of panels, and I feel like now it's a bit weird to wrap up the con because I didn't do panels, but also I kind of want to, I find it very interesting to look at like, how did this thing happen? And so like, I really would love an in-depth video essay on how it happened and how to make it better. Problem is, no one's going to make that because the people who know how it happened, they're all, kind of involved in con running, and they're not going to do like a takedown or whatever. So that means if I want to have a video going in depth about that, I got to make it, and that sounds hard. And also, like, I don't really want, I don't want to come across like I'm just dunking on this when they had so many issues. I don't know, maybe I'll do, like, I was putting down ideas for doing a video that's like, what went wrong? And then another one that's like, how to do good online conventions in future. But now I'm so tired just thinking about it.
You're going to be doing like the New Zealand author's video.
Yeah, that's gonna be like that one. I definitely want to do because that seems like a lot more positive, and it's gonna be mainly a book haul, to be honest, and like introducing
People
those-
will love that as a resource. Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of us came out of Con Zealand, like the stuff we watched, we were like, everyone was just so hungry for New Zealand, Australian book recommendations. Like, well, what is out there? What's available? How do you?
Yeah, it's going to be only NZ because otherwise it's too much. With like, I mean, it's already going to be like 20 books or something like that. And there's stuff that I've got on. There's stuff that are on Scribs, stuff that I've got on Audible. Sorry, I'm bumping my mic. It must be really annoying. Anyway, I am extremely hungry because I didn't have enough lunch because I was trying to record that fucking video for 3 hours. So I need to go and make some dinner. Because
Did
it's
you talk about what you were gonna be?
yeah.
Oh,
Cat.
me.
And I think yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't filmed anything in 4 weeks, so that's a thing. I need to do my July wrap up, which I'm sort of kind of dreading, but I still want to wrap up my thoughts on a bunch of books. So hopefully I will do that tomorrow so that I can have that video up for Wednesday, captioned and stuff. So wish me luck that I will do it.
Good luck.
Also, I'm going to be programming with Python for the foreseeable future until I have my beautiful LED screen, LED matrix subscription counter that I can put behind my videos. I've been working on that.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, and Shannon just pointed out that today, Shannon from That's So Ho published a collab video that we did on the book White Rage by Carol Anderson. It's a hefty 55 minutes long discussion about that book, but we had a lot of fun doing it. So yeah, there's that. So yeah.
Cool.
How about Di?
I'm going to try and finish the 3 books I have in various stages. And then I think I need to buckle down and finish the physical library books that I've had out since the start of the pandemic, so I can finally turn them in and stop getting overdue notices from my library, even though they currently aren't collecting fines.
Yeah, my library is collecting fines, and I have a couple of comics that are late, so I should work on
Down
that.
with library fines.
Yeah,
Library fines should be abolished.
With that, down with library fines, fight the system and everything. And with that, next month we'll be on Rachel's channel, I think.
Sorry, everybody froze for me. I missed.
Are we on your channel next month, or maybe Brie? I don't know.
We are on Brie's channel. Brie comes before me.
Oh,
Yep.
oh, okay. Well, Brie's channel then.
We'll figure it out and let you know.
Yes.
Okay. So bye. See you
Bye.
next month.
StreamYard's being difficult.
Yes.
But yeah, no, library fines really are unethical, and there's a movement to abolish them. And I think more libraries should abolish them because they are punitive towards this. I have very strong feelings about how terrible library fines are and how counter they are to the spirit of librarianship.
I can't believe I can't stop this live because my internet isn't connecting fast enough. Oh my god! End.
You could also like just completely close the window. It would probably shut us all down.
No,
Oh,
it won't. It really
No.
won't. We know this because my internet went down when I was hosting the other day. Remember the other month? Somebody needs to tell them to come back because otherwise this will just stay on the channel.
I mean, we're joking before the stream started that it's not a Stitch and Bitch if we don't have some sort of technical issue.
Yep. This is a new one, though.
I know.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna go grab a cat so we have something.
Amazing. I really need to go make dinner.
Yeah, I
Is it going to be horrid if I just leave? I need to go make some food. I'm
Go make dinner.
I'm so sorry, guys.
Hold on, wait. Say goodbye.
Oh yeah, we haven't had enough cat content.
You're a rebel scum. You're a rebel scum.
Look at his little fangs.
Oh my god, vampire rebel scum.
I know, he's a little vampire.
Mm.
He's like, no, stop it.
Okay, I'm really hungry. I've got to go make some food.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
This may be the most
our
ridiculous
trash
thing
can.
ever.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
I don't know where Rhea went.